The almost perfect podcast.
You're speaking about like the the confronting, the aligning, the questioning of these projections of ourselves. The process of acting, taking on a character, whomever it is so extraordinary, and it's such a gift. And I'm intrigued as to how the process of comedy as well always connects binaries, right? The binary,
Yep.
right, of comedy, humor. We're living in, perhaps some might say, a humorless time, and the need for laughter, for jokes, for a light-hearted spin on just crazy atrocities we're living
See,
through is
yeah,
more
that's the thing.
needed than ever.
I feel it's the opposite though. Like I feel like humor is just got nihilistic. Like
Mm.
it's still there. It's just not like as uplifting and motivating as it might have been at one point in
Mm.
time.
And that's such a precious thing, Bob, because I really, as a writer, I've always been very fascinated by the line. And please, you'll reflect better on this than me, but the line between depression, mental health, wellness, and humor, right? And
Yeah.
jokes. um, but in terms of process of acting and working and stripping and interrogating who one is, my recent opportunities, and I think something that I truly value about the career I'm experiencing and the roles that I'm experiencing is, I play characters rather a lot younger than me. And so as an older young adult woman, but an older woman compared to a younger woman, but rather a teenage girl at different points in teenagehood, it's such an extraordinary informative, transformative period of life. I know my teenagehood, my girlhood really was for me. I think tapestries of, trauma from different points in life, but from early experiences were really a tangible response. And, with these roles, I'm able to revisit and reintegrate different times of my life. And it's truly a gift to be able to inhabit and recount and rewrite, synapses of your own narrative, if one could say, when we're pretending, when we're performing, when we do role play, and this is a therapeutic experience. It can be a therapeutic process. Role play is part of therapy rooms. Role play is indeed part of healthy sex lives for people who are into that. There is maybe something neurally going on as well that's allowing us to explore, make peace, and retell our own stories.
Yeah, that's something I've picked up about actors in like listening to actors talk about acting a lot of the time, especially through Mark Maron's podcast. And it's that whole thing of, in a weird way, you're not necessarily reliving your life, but at the same time, you're always drawing from your own life in these moments that are on screen. And I've always wondered, like, what is that like to actually be that vulnerable in front of a camera and to relive these experiences? Because also you've been in some movies that are pretty, like, they deal with some heavy stuff, you know?
So, Bob, the truth about heaviness is that it's heavy and really, really tender. And some of the more recent heavy drama work I've done, I've started to refer to my treasure chest of trauma, and as days and weeks of production may go on, and you re-inhabit, recreate incredibly emotional moments, drawing from your own memories. And set is so wild. Things can go wrong, and suddenly you're shooting a scene for reasons, that only the gods of cinema battery packs know for 3 hours. And, you're wondering, how do I sustain this emotional state? And these journeys go, and it's exhausting. But, I found myself, I was portraying, so in the film, the scene was the funeral of my loved one. And I was 16 years old. I was giving a eulogy. And the cinema guards busted out that camera, and we had to go on a kind of extraordinarily lengthy journey to cover this funeral scene. And to sustain, it's not even pretty, man. Like, to sustain that, I was extraordinary, and this is just extraordinary for me, that this even happened. But I was just, I recreated mentally through sight, smells, touch, the memory of people's clothes and spaces. I transported myself in a mental three-dimensional world to one of the most poignant funerals. Seems like I'm transporting myself now, that I ever attended in my life. Most transformative, which was the funeral of my childhood best friend. Great sentence to end the funeral of my childhood. um, and, on the one, just what the human mind can do in the name of an artistic pursuit, when motivated to do so, it's just extraordinary. And of course, it's exhausting, Bob, heavy
Yeah.
roles, drama roles. Day after day, I remember as the weeks wore on of this production, this character was going through a lot, let me tell you. And I kept opening what I call this treasure chest of my traumas. And as the weeks wore on, it got harder. You know, I was noticing this almost split in my projected personality or my behavioral personality. When I was not shooting, I was almost like childlike. I was inhabiting naivety, and inside, as I would get closer to shooting and knowing what I would have to do, what I would need to open, what the scene required, there would be this resistance. I don't want to remember certain things in such acute emotional detail, such that it is embodied, right?
Yeah.
Yet, as an actor, as an artist, to be able to do that is phenomenal, and it truly is a gift, and it is incredibly rewarding, while also being alienating. Alienating in some ways from one's own life, one's own relationships as you knew it or as they knew you before, suddenly day after day for 12, maybe 14 extended day hours, 16-day hours, one is sort of enduring a roller coaster. We do change. And I guess this is why the need for de-rolling is so important, so that we shed what isn't ours and that we practice shedding what isn't ours to continue to carry now, lest we allow our past selves, to take too much hold in our present, and lest our past selves get into the driver's seat of our present life.
Yeah.
But so, in contrast, right? I recently had a wonderful opportunity to play just such a delightful character. The drama was never hers in so many ways. She was the light-hearted, bubbly relief, and it was just a joy, Bob, to not have to
Well, that's
open that
kind of
treasure
like
chest.
and that's kind of like how I, like, see you in my mind. Like, from my brief interactions with you, is like, a bit more bubbly and a bit more fun. And but actually what I wanted to ask just now was essentially, how do you shed roles and how long does that process usually take? And do some roles take longer to shed than others?
What an interesting question. Some roles do take longer to shed, and I think this depends on what the actor or the person or me, whomever, has had to give up for that role.
Okay.
There are many different methods. Acting, the experience of relaying an authentic human condition and story is different. There are many different ways to do it. Myself, I lean into the method approach in a bit more of
I
an
kind of
intuitive,
figured.
unstructured way, having never gone to method acting school or anything like that. But when one's dealing with perhaps spiritual narratives, that the actor makes choices, perhaps it's foods to cut out of the diet, perhaps it is sex to cut out of the actor's vessel, the body's life, for the duration of the role. The process of return, perhaps.
And that's not just a sacrifice for you. Like, if you have a partner, that's a two-way sacrifice.
Absolutely. And one certainly does not want Nobody in any field wants their work coming home with them, right? And wreaking havoc in their own house. But it's absolutely a sacrifice for a partner to make. But perhaps it doesn't have to be looked at as sacrifice, right? If one is
Sure.
exploring rich tapestry of life, philosophy, if the body is the vessel, it sort of, narratives are crazy, right? The process of suspending our disbelief, which is what any of us do as audience members, you know, in a movie, watching a series, and perhaps, we suspend our disbelief in so many other ways. When our friend is telling us a gripping story, and this one's a transformative one, and we're going in all directions, and then there's the U-turn, and we're left, and now we're doing a donut, and the story has meant a great deal to them, effectively. When we are listening and witnessing, are we not also suspending our disbelief? But yes, sacrifices are made, and roles can be something that get in that is endured. There are certain mental states one has to endure to continue to maintain whatever the if we look at acting or a character's emotional score as a musical composition, to maintain that note. And I can't pretend in my relationships, in my life so far, I haven't found it alienating sometimes. I've certainly found it difficult to return, and it's also it's more than just you and the character, right? If you're out shooting on location for weeks, the whole world might be in a pandemic, right? And you're in this closed bubble. And you're so remote from anywhere, you're not even entering garages to buy airtime or chocolates. That's just not what's happening. You don't even use money or touch money or engage in trade for weeks. And then you return to the world, and you return to the city, you return to your own streets, you need to buy airtime, you go to the garage to spend money. This is also like these crazy culture shocks. I remember coming back from 3 weeks away in Sebokeng for a production last year, and I came back to Johannesburg in slip slops, shorts, and a t-shirt, and I had to buy airtime. And it was nighttime, and the street, it was also, Bob, it wasn't just any night. This was Melville, okay? This is where I was. This is where I
Uh,
got dropped. This was my pickup point. It was Melville on a Thursday night. No one's wearing slops. No one's wearing shorts. No one's wearing a
no,
t-shirt. No one's
unless you're a tourist.
feet are sandy. And yeah, it's just wild, I suppose. What is it? Humans are so adaptable. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. We readapt back, but we do adapt to other worlds.